Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew here, back for our build review show. It is Monday, October 7th of 2024. And on this show, I bring users builds up live on stream, giving them personalized feedback and advice about things that I think that they can do different in their builds to build stronger lineups, changes that they can make to improve their post-contest sim ROIs here. So it should be a fun day. Have plenty of people signed up today. Not sure if we're going to be able to get to everyone today, so we're going to do our best and knock out as many people as possible. But with that said, let's jump right in and let's start reviewing some builds. So first person up is going to be from support, Music Guy 595. So let's go back to yesterday's main slate and see what they did. So pulling them up now. Gonna jump over to the contest tab. And going to be checking out what they're doing here, right? So first thing, right, is, they actually start out contest selection wise, like pretty good, from the ground up, dime times, $1, $1 3 max, quarter jukebox, mini max, $1.20. Like, this is all great, like right up until you get to the spot. And it's not like the spy is a bad contest to play. It's actually like a pretty decent contest in my opinion, single entry, over 4,000 unique entrants. But the only problem I kind of have with this decision in particular is that now your spy alone is accounting for like 60% of your entry fees. And basically, like, a lot of times your whole day is going to come down to like, did I cash in the spy or not? Right. And, your average expectation is probably not to cash. So, you can just have so many bad days, like kind of with this. I think it's fine to play the spy if your bankroll allows, but like I would keep going down this other track that you started in, like play the $3, the $5 single, the $12 singles. There's like 3 of those, right? They have like a $8 3 max, a $15 3 max. There's a lot of other contests you could play where you can get more lineups down for basically the same amount of money, right? So you could probably get, I don't know, at least like 10 unique lineups for the cost of this one here. So I know like winning 100K is like cool. Like we want to chase those big prizes. So just something to think about at the end of the day. But I think that, so much of your day is going to come down to your results in this one contest, which kind of sucks, right? So especially when you're playing, another 200 plus unique lineups, and like one of them has like your entire day in it. So I'm sure like you can like hyper focus in on this one contest. All right. Either way, let's keep rolling here. So I want to study some lineups from this weekend. It's always better to study like more lineups than less. So I want to do the quarter jukebox here. It's a decently sized contest. Shouldn't take too long to load here. And we should be able to study at least like a set of 20 lineups that you entered. All right. So let's let these post-contest sims load here. And then once they do, let's go over to users. All right, Music Guy right here. Enter 20 lineups, sort by sim ROI. So good news, right, is that this user is positive, 34% sim ROI. And that is a strong number to start. Some of the highest numbers we're seeing in this contest, like 65 to like 75%. So a little bit of room for improvement here, but strong start, right? Average salary looks I'm actually kind of surprised to see like a 34% sim ROI for somebody grading out so well with like this very good sim average score, very consistent with a lot of the top players. So I wouldn't read into it too much. All in all, I think this is a very strong set of 20 lineups. I think that we're going to end up learning more from the build here rather than the post-contest sims. But another So it looks like Music Guys here. He said, for sure, man, my first conclusion was I should quit playing the spy. I mean, you know, it's not that you should quit playing the spy. I mean, maybe immediately, right? But like, you know, the goal isn't to quit the spy forever. It's just to work up your bankroll to where making the spy, like playing the spy, is just another contest in your list, and it's not taking up such a huge percentage. So like immediately, yeah, maybe, you know, but eventually, like we want to get back to that point where like we're playing that spy, right? And we're playing, you know, the power sweep, and we're playing all of those, right? So I'm with you. You know, I it is a good contest and a fun contest to play, right? All right. So one thing I was going to call out, you know, they did late swap all of their lineups. I think that's super important on these main slates. So that's good to see, right? It's a very good sign. All right, jumping into the pre-build, not the late swap build. So what do we see? Okay. Default min-max salary, no filters, no rules, no lineup filters. A few min exposures, not a lot. Cortland Sutton. Really just the one there. Quarterbacks, nothing. Defense is nothing. Stack exposures. A little more specific with the stack exposures here. Like, hey, I want to play QB +1 to QB +3, QB +1 with a bring back to QB +3 with a bring back. No more than 2 bring backs. And then naked QB with the 1 on the other side is an available option, but no lineups of that nature here. So this is a little bit personal preference, right? I think it's okay to manipulate your stacks a little bit. I don't know exactly why they're leaving out no QB stacks, but leaving in QB +0 with 1 on the other side. That one's a little interesting choice for me. I would probably be open to 2 bringbacks for like for some of these, probably for all of them, just because you get that like game stack, like, and we saw it this weekend, right? We saw it with Baltimore and Cincinnati. It's very easy to say after the fact. But I'm somebody who doesn't limit stack types at all. So, you know, I would just say be aware of like those game environments where that game can just go off. You just have like a lineup full, like of, you know, 6 players from that one game or something like that. So just some thoughts on this. I don't know how you came to this decision. I don't think it's a huge deal. You know, a lot of these are common stack types that you're going to see anyways. But just wanted to give my thoughts there, because that seems like to be the biggest change here. Like aside from the Cortland Sutton change, you know, limiting stack exposure seems to be the biggest thing that this user is doing. But other than that, you know, these lineups graded out well. We looked at a set of 20 lineups and they looked fine. So I would say that the biggest thing here is probably going to be the contest selection, spreading that extra $100 out into more contests. And those can be single entries and 3 maxes, right? Like that is okay. They already had, you know, plenty of lineups in the mini max and some of these other 20 maxes. And so I think it's like totally fine to do that. Just start from the ground up like you're doing with everything else, right? Like everything else looks perfect. All right. Other than that, keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you being here. Hope this helps and that you can, you know, get some useful stuff out of this for future contests. All right. So with that said, let's keep it rolling. Next person up is going to be Adam. And let's get Adam up here on the screen. And it looks like we're going to be doing NFL main slate all day today. Looks like Adam's here. What's up, Adam? Yeah, no, Adam said it's only my second week here. I think that's great. Get in early, get these adjustments in right away during your first month and like run with that, right? So you don't want to, it's better to get help sooner rather than later, right? That's always a good thing. So let's go over to the contest tab, start checking some of this stuff out. Okay, so looks like Adam plays like a lot of single entry and 3-max here. That's like most of their portfolio. Like, see, like I don't mind like taking like a shot, like you want to throw one in the millie, like that's cool. The play action, the $3.20 max and the $1.20 max are both really good contests because of the raw amount of like unique users it takes to max those out. So those are all good. I don't know. Or actually, I do know that. Actually, no, I don't know. So there is a chance that Adam does not have access to low stakes contests because he's only playing contests below $3, below $5 that have a prize pool over 25K, which is like the limit there. So Adam, if you do have access to low stakes, start from the ground up. Start with 9 times quarters, mini maxes, and just get that action, right? That action's always going to be good. Like I've talked to, top pros who've like said like, hey, my ROIs in the low stakes when I could play them was like 30%. And now that I can't even see those contests in the lobby anymore, my ROIs are closer to like 10% because there's better competition in those contests, right? So you can't play those contests forever. They will go away at some point. If you play the game long enough and, win enough money. So play them if you can. If you can't, I understand. But those are just some of my thoughts on the contest selection here. So now let's go by entries. Let's try and look at this first down. All right, so let's pull up the lineups for the $1.20 max. That way we just look at a few more lineups there. And we'll let this load for a minute. Sometimes when you're trying to load bigger contests, you might get a pop-up on your screen that says like, hey, page unresponsive. I would just click wait, and oftentimes it will load. It did load here for me. So that's just a note to you guys. Like, hey, try and be a little bit patient with it because it can be a little tough there. So we want to look at people who max entered this contest as well. Sort by sim ROI. All right. So highest sim ROIs in the contest, somewhere between like 90 to 100%. And Adam's at about 12. So good news is that he is positive. But there's plenty of room for improvement here, right? Which is great. So let's see what we can do to help Adam get closer to this top range of sim ROIs here. So pretty high average salary in line with a lot of the other top players. Uniqueness looks fine. Sim average score looks a little bit low, closer to like 127. We're seeing a lot of sets like in the low 130 range, like 130 to 135. So 132, 135, 131, 130, right? Like there is a range, from like 130 to 135. You don't have to play the highest projected set, but I think we need to play a little bit higher than like 126.9. And, even if we get down to like 130, right? Like taking him from 12% to, I don't know, like 30, 40, 50% is like very realistic for just increasing the sim average score, which is what we're probably going to focus on here. So looks like all these lineups came from build 1. One other note, right? Doesn't look like Adam late swapped here. I would highly, highly recommend doing a late swap before the afternoon window. The afternoon window was kind of big, right? It was like a 6 games early, 4 games late. So that's like a 60-40 split, right? Like 40% of the slate has not played out yet. So re-optimizing your lineups at this, almost halfway point is actually really, really important especially like to account for like new sims that have run. If there was any news for these afternoon games, that could be big, right? All right, so let's go over to build one. And let's see what we got going on. So, default, min max salary, no filters, couple rules. What do we got here? So one says sub 20, one says sub 10. I'm assuming these are ownership rules. See what they look like. All right, use at least 2 position players whose adjusted ownership is less than 20. And then rule 2 says, this is the sub 10 one, use at least 1 player whose adjusted ownership is less than 10. Okay, I think this is fine. If you want to do this, I don't see any reason for that. I'm sure there's, value in it to you, and I don't think it's like a bad rule at all. So it seems good. All right, using Saber score, I think that's correct. Unique rank, no uniques. No exposure adjustments in all. No QB exposures. No defense. All stack types available. No team or game stacks. Okay, so I want to see one thing. If we put so this one's a little tricky, right? Because we saw that. Hold on, let me see something. And I'm going to reset these columns. Try that again. Okay, so just one note on the sim ROIs. So it looks like he's using projections from an outside source. So this can have a lot to do with the post-contest sim results that we saw. So you always, whenever you're using another custom set of projections, it's really important to understand the major differences there. And like I saw that your sim ROIs were a little low, your sim average score looked a little low. Well, that's according to our sims, right? And our projections that we're using to grade your lineup sets. You might take your 20 lineups, go and calculate the sim average score using the set of projections you used, and then you might actually get a sim average score a lot closer to what I was talking about was good, right? You're like, hey, when I calculate the sim average score of the 20 lineups that I played using the projections that I used, the sim average score was actually like 131 instead of 127. Well, then, that is your key indicator that, your sim ROIs were probably actually higher than we were showing. And that, you should just be a little more quick to take those results with a little bit of a grain of salt. So that's the biggest thing that I would be saying, I would be mentioning or paying attention to there. Like, and even if you wanted to come in here and do that, right? Like you could go to your first down and then go and like look at your lineups and do the projected scores and then average it out and then see what your number is. That might be something. I was saying the reason I'm recommending Sorry, I'm just moving the screen around a lot. It's like a lot going on here. So if the custom projections aren't causing the low sim average score, then it is probably coming from the rules being used. You want to identify which one of those two is causing the sim average score differences. Is it the custom projections or is it the rules? And then if it's the custom projections, cool, fine, leave it the way it is and just be aware of that. But if it actually is the rules, then you might want to rethink. And since they're driving the average score down so far, it's having a net negative benefit in my opinion. So what I would do is I would download your 20 lineups. I would do some cross-checking of projections that you used with the lineups you played and basically figure out where the sim average score is coming from. And then what you could do the next week, leading into next week, is use your rules on one contest. Maybe you use the rules on the $3.20 max. And then you don't use the rules on the $1.20 max. And then you compare your sim ROIs between the two contests, saying like, hey, compared to the other users, did I grade out better with the rules on or with the rules off? And for the strategy that you are testing it on the lower dollar contest of the two. So that is effectively your homework here. And that is what I would be doing because the answer to that question is going to be really important to figuring out how to help you the best. So if you want, you can let me know how that goes in the Discord and get back to me. But that is step number one here. So hope that helps. And I'm excited to hear how the results of that experiment end up going. All right. Good stuff right there. Going to keep it rolling here. Next up is going to be JB Williams here. So let's get JB up on the screen. Adam said, appreciate the tips. Will do. Awesome. All right. So let's get JB up. Get Saberson back up. Let's try one other thing. Because I'm not seeing a build for the main slate. So let me try one more thing. Okay. So let's get Sabersim up. And let's go over to contest. So it looks like they did build lineups here. And it looks like they just built one lineup. But it looks like they put like a lot of work into this lineup, right? Like they have a build. They're even swapping for this lineup. What I would say is that even if you have a lower bankroll, right? Even if you're not playing that much, you should still be trying to get more lineups down. So like, I think like a better use of $5 here is 20 lineups in a dime time. And so if you do that, you still use $5, but you get 23 lineups down, and then you're still splitting your action between MME, which is like a 20 max, and then single entry and 3 max contests, which is the $1. So I would rather see those two contests than all of your chips in this one single entry contest. So that'd be my advice there as far as selection goes. But let's see how they did. Let's pull up the results here. All right, JB. So good news, right? They entered a pretty solid lineup, 48% sim ROI, which is like really, really strong. Now, analyzing like high average salary, lineup was unique. Sim average score looks pretty good. You know, I don't think we're gonna get like a ton here. Some of the highest sim ROIs are like close to like 200%. I still think this is a solid lineup, all things considered here. Let's go over to build one. Okay, so I would say if I was building one lineup, you know, actually I think about this like even more so in like a single entry, is that you almost want to be stricter with your salary. Like you played a 49,900 lineup, and that's just SaberSim, you know, doing a good job of like making sure that you're getting to like a well projected lineup, since projection and salary are typically correlated. But I would not be turning minimum salary down to 0. If anything, I'd be turning it up. I think it's at 48.5 default. I raised it to 49,000 for like main slates and stuff, and that's even with playing lots of lineups. So I wouldn't even be opposed to raising it to like 49.5 for one single lineup in like a $5 single entry. So those are some thoughts there. No filters, couple rules. Don't use players against opposing defense. I think that's good. It's a default rule. Upside wide receivers. This looks like some type of group rule. Okay, so with regards to a rule like this, where they're basically putting a group of 9 receivers and saying use at least 3, you're being very, very specific about what your lineup is going to look like. So it's really important to kind of judge yourself, and however you're getting to these 9 players, to go back and say, you know, was my research accurate? Did, you know, how many of these receivers performed at a high level? And should I continue to do this? And it's this rule as well as the other rule, or what's this other rule? Use at least 1, ownership less than 10. Okay. I think that's fine. But any type of like group rule, or anytime you're making projection adjustments or making minimax exposure changes, or especially like minimum exposure changes, you know, max is more like on the risk side, but minimum is like raising players. So I'd say minimum exposures, projection adjustments, group rules where you're forcing a certain set of players, whether that be like a core or what, you know, try and objectively analyze yourself and say, hey, you know, was my research correct? What can I improve? Right. Because it's not, like, maybe it is good, but you know, you're not going to be right 100% of the time, but you can get incrementally better week after week and figure out like, okay, why was I wrong? What did I miss? And where can I get better? And if you do that, you're just going to be a little bit more right each time. And that's just going to help you to, you know, achieve those results that you're looking for faster. So I would say whatever research led you to that rule, track it every week, judge the players in your rule based on how they did, and you know, try and get you know, a little bit better each week with picking the players that you're going to put into your rule. But you know, your sim average score in the post build looked fine, so it doesn't seem like you're putting bad receivers in there that are like tanking your projected score, which would be something I would be worried about. But in this case, I'm not worried about it because you still graded out well in that metric in the post build. So that's the last I'll say there. But other than that, So just to summarize, because we're about wrapped up here. Try and play like the dime time and the $1 3 max instead of one entry into the $5 single. If you're only going to play one lineup, I would leave a floor, possibly even higher floor for minimum salary. I would judge my rules or my players in my rules each and every week, writing them down. And those are going to be my big three takeaways here. So all in all, this was a positive sim ROI lineup. This lineup did grade out well. And if you do those things, I think it's only going to help you from here on out. All right. Good stuff there. Gonna keep it going. We got Timothy and Stacy up next. And let's get them up on the screen. All right. Looks like their builds are loading now. All right. Going to go to the contest tab. So contest selection looks really, really strong here, right? Playing a lot of single entry and 3 max, which is fine, you know, and they're doing like this ground up approach, right? So their action is closer to like 50-50 split between single entry and 3 max and 20 max and 150. And that's cool, right? Even still taking a shot in the milli, no problems there at all, right? So this all looks really good. Very happy with the splits here. So let's go to entries. And let's go to the first down. This is the one that we will review. So while this loads, Jack asked the question, can you explain your service, please? Sure thing, Jack. So we are a software company, and our goal is to help our users win money at daily fantasy sports. So we provide projections for just about every sport on this list here. I can't load it at the moment because we're running a different process here at the minute that is very, very memory intensive. Oh, there it goes. You know, all these different sports for all these different sites that we have where you can play contests and try and win DFS prizes each and every day. So if you want to check us out, go over to sabersim.com and start your 5-day free trial right away. All right. So this first downloaded. Let's go over to users. So we got Timothy and Stacy here. 20 entries, sort by sim ROI. So good news, right? 62% sim ROI. It's a pretty solid set here. Highest sim ROI is like 95 to 105%. So very, very, you know, strong, right? This is the strongest we've seen so far. Good average salary. $19 unique lineups, but average dupes is 1. That's kind of like so random that you had one lineup dupe 20 times. If my math's correct. I actually want to see this. Wow, you had one lineup dupe 13 times. That is so strange. On a main slate. Feels a little unlucky. And all these other ones are zeros. So we'll chalk that up to a little bit of bad luck. And it didn't like tank your sim ROI. Still positive 10%, even though it had a bunch of dupes. So that seems okay. All right. Getting back to our analysis. So sim average score, 130.6, right in between that like 130 to 135 range. A little bit on the low end, but it's not killing them here. So that seems okay. So everything here in the build looks pretty good. In the post contest sim, let's jump over to the build actually, and then note that they did late swap at that 60% way through the slate mark here. So this all looks good. Like to see the swaps. Let's go over to build 1. All right. So first impressions, no, default min and max salary, no filters, no rules, no lineup filters, using ROI, using a high number of min uniques. Exposure's pretty flat. Leverage is like really flat as well. We see very, very flat leverages here. No min or max exposures, at least in the all tab. One adjustment to Josh Allen here. I think that's okay to have a few opinions. Managing risk at the defense position. I think this is fine. Defense is, high variance position. So basically saying I don't want any more than 20%, like kind of matching here. Like, hey, Broncos 21% owned, no more than like 20, just being super, super flat at defense. I think this is okay. Allowing all stacks, no game or team stacks. So this all looks really good. Now, the only thing I would be worried about here, and I'm going to put these lineups back into their pool. Now this is like from my experience, so I don't know how this worked in real time, but 5 min unique seems a little bit high. So what I would be checking is like, okay, I'm min uniques 1. If you want to use the min, median, max ROIs, I think that's fine. So right now, max 93, median 39, minimum 24. When you go to 5, okay, so they basically increased the min uniques until the last lineup in their set was just above positive. I think this is a fine approach. Okay. I just wanted to check this. This was something where it's like, okay, let's make sure they're not going too far. Let's make sure that this all looks correct. So I think that this is a fine strategy, but I did want to check it. So this is okay. And personal preference here, I like to also have an average projection because we see how important it is doing this show day after day. Okay, so you didn't sacrifice too much. Sacrificed maybe like 2 points projection. So if we had set min unique to 1 and it was like 134 and you're dropping down all the way to 129 with your min unique of 5, then I would be worried. Dropping it from 131 to 129 is not terrible here. So overall, I like what you're doing here. I just want to be clear about that. I think this is good. Your post-contest sim ROI, 62% was really, really solid. I wouldn't change a lot here, right? I think that this is very good. A lot of what we just did was kind of just like spot checking, like, hey, is this working as you expected? Hey, is this like kind of where you want to be at? And the answers were repeatedly yes. So I like this. I like this build. I like the late swaps. I like the contest selection. I think you're doing a lot of the right things. So just keep at it. And I like what I'm seeing. So I hope it gives you some comfort that you're moving in the right direction here with a pretty solid process. All right. That was our 4th person so far today. Going to keep it rolling. Next up is going to be Simon. let's get Simon up on the screen. Okay, hold on. All right. I'm seeing it, but I'm not seeing it. Okay. All right, so let's get this up. So Simon did things a little bit different. It looks like they didn't upload a entries file here, but they did have a custom contest sim for the slant. So this at least tells me where to go and look for them. So I can go to the slant, $9, 150 max. We can load this contest. Right. So let's go to users. So Simon, 1312. This is our guy right here. All right. So, okay. So Simon maxed it out. So we can go at least look at people who maxed this contest. So 150 entries sorted by sim ROI. So some of the highest sim ROIs, couple outliers, but looks like 10 to 25% seems like pretty normal, or like that's like the top range before outliers. Simon was at negative 9.7. So we got to figure out, okay, what can Simon do differently here to be closer to the top range here, right? And I think like this is, you know, the more and more people we do, we kind of see a trend here of like not sacrificing too much projection. So I think that, you know, a lot of these top sets like 130, 131, 131, 130, 129, 128 maybe even are like, you know, I'd say like 128 is probably like the lowest you should go. We see one outlier here close to like 127. But I think the fact that we saw he was at 126.6 is just a little low. So let's go into the build and see what decisions and things were made that potentially like hurt this user's lineups and drove this number down a little bit. But their uniqueness looks fine. They're using a lot of average salary. So we're probably going to see something in the build here. Okay. So minimum salary up, right? 49.4. I think that's fine. 6 rules. So let's look at a couple of these. So if Judy must use Watson, it's like correlation rule. Seems fine. If at least one team's quarterback, then don't use the defense from the same team. You know, I've been seeing this one like come up a little bit more. I didn't know so many people were doing this. I don't really have an opinion on it. If at least one quarterback, then use no players on the same team. It looks like they saved this as a manual rule and did this for like a subset, possibly made some changes in here. If at least one team's running back, then use. I would probably write this one a little bit differently. If it's working, I think it's fine, but it does read a little bit weird. I would just do something that says use no more than one group by team and just running back. This will definitely have that same impact. So just use no more than one of them. Controlling which teams are QB plus 2'd. So this user is very, very hands-on, you know, very, very particular about what they want to see. You know, for for me, this kind of goes back to just making sure that your rules are helping you more than hurting you. Let's go to exposures. And then also like being super hands-on here with minimum exposures and stuff as well, right? So we see, a couple max exposures, we see minimum exposures, we see quite a lot of them. So it kind of comes down to me like how convicted you are about some of these things. And again, I would be judging them, right? I would be coming in here and making sure that like the changes that you're making are net positive. And you're going to have to do it manually, but judging your rules and minimum and maximum exposures are probably the biggest thing here, in my opinion. And you got to figure out which one of those two things is causing you to drive down your sim average score. And if you're actually okay with that outcome. So what I would probably do is I would probably play a smaller dollar 150 max. And basically either like not do one of these things and only do the other, or do neither of them. Like maybe you play 350 maxes next week. One of them you do both. One of them you do only minimum exposures and maximums. And then the other one you only do rules. And then see how you grade out differently from those three. Or maybe you can play 4. And you could do this in 20 maxes too. You could use 20 maxes for this trial and error. And then maybe do one with none or either of them, right? Sounds crazy, but if you do them in, lower dollar stuff, then you're getting that trial and error at a smaller risk to you and the way you're approaching the slate. So that's probably what I would recommend this upcoming week, is to think about doing, 4 20 maxes, one with no min or max exposures but rules, one with min and max exposure and no rules, one with both, and then one with none. And then compare your results across all 4 and see how the post-contest sim results look. And kind of go from there as to what the next step is in deciding how you want to approach future slates. So that's my advice there. But all in all, hope that's helpful. All right. So that was our 5th person of the day here. Try and do about 5 people a day, and we're getting pretty close to an hour here. So we're going to call it there. I do have 2 people signed up for tomorrow already. If anybody likes this content and wants me to do it for their builds, all you got to do, drop your DK username in the office hours channel in our Discord server, and I will add you to the queue for tomorrow's show. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you all tomorrow. So until then, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.